In this episode, we finally see Norman Osborn back on the glider. He now carries a different persona, and at the end, Spider-Man finally faces with Electro. Peter struggles with his spider sense going out of control. No thanks to Electro's sneak attack at the power line that hit Spider-Man after saving 2 construction workers. Initially, he asked for Norman Osborn's help to increase the power of his spider sense and a new advanced suit developed by Oscorp, so he could help more people. But now, instead of just sensing a few people in a vicinity at a time, he can sense all of the people within the city itself all at the same time. It makes his head hurt like crazy as the overload of information from his spider sense is taking a toll on Peter Parker. But he pushes through it as he proclaims that he is Spider-Man and the people needed him. Throughout the day, Spider-Man uses his out-of-control spider sense to help a huge number of people throughout the whole city. From a girl's soccer ball being lost and squished by incoming traffic on the street, which the small girl rudely tells Peter that he's sucked, to a man choking on his food and helping him to get that out from his windpipe. Spider-Man even saved a crowd of people from being hit by a taxi with a blown-out tire that swerved out of control in the crowd's direction. He even stops a fight between 2 people who are ready to trade blows with each other. What a busy day it was for Peter Parker, it seems. After a busy day, Peter's web shooters ran out of juice, and Bailey Briggs, aka Spider-Boy, berates Peter for overdoing it yet again. He criticizes Peter for modifying his body's biology yet again, reminding him about the time Doc Connor used to creep out Bailey by retelling him the time Peter grew 6 arms due to Peter's tampering. But Bailey shifted his point to Peter, modifying his biology to be more like Bailey this time around. But before Spider-Boy could continue, someone shouted at them to hold themselves there. To Bailey's surprise, a gold-suited individual who was riding on a glider unit similar to the infamous Spider-Man villain approaches them with a pumpkin bomb in one hand. The golden individual was none other than Norman Osborn himself and his new persona of Gold Goblin. But it seems that he isn't there to cause trouble, but instead to help Peter Parker. He throws the non-explosive pumpkin bomb, and instead it releases a bright purple smoke upon impact, incapacitating Peter Parker enough for Norman to capture him quite easily. Now weakened and unconscious, Norman flies away with Peter, leaving a confused Bailey alone. Confused and not knowing what to do next, Bailey follows suit to the 2, complaining that he thought Norman was already a good guy in this timeline. He tries his best to catch up, as he doesn't have his own web shooters for web swinging. In a bank vault somewhere, Electro incapacitates 2 bank guards assigned to protect the said vault. He taunts down guards as he opens the unlocked vault door, as it was locked electronically, which was easy pickings for him. He then proclaims to himself that anything inside the vault is now his. Once inside, Electro can't contain his awe and excitement as he sees for himself huge stacks of gold bars in front of him. He happily proclaims again that all of those gold bars are now his. But after realizing it and cursing, he sadly walks away from the vault with only a few gold bars in hand. He then told himself that he should hire guides next time, realizing now that there was no way he could transport all of those gold bars by himself. Peter wakes up inside Oscorp's laboratory. He wonders what had happened. Norman used a pumpkin bomb that temporarily shuts off Peter's spider sense. He claims they were lucky he still has one of those. Norman is hopeful that the effect could buy them some time to find for a permanent solution. Peter is surprised as he asks how long was he out. Norman kindly responded it had been hours already. Peter promised Aunt May that he wouldn't miss dinner as he jumps out of bed. Norman was furious as the effects of the pumpkin bomb is temporary and warns Peter of the consequences that would happen. As he was to say stay put to Peter, Peter has already left the building. Norman can't believe that he was never able to kill Peter Parker when he was still a villain, referring to Peter's recklessness. At Aunt May's dinner, Peter tells his Aunt May that his dishes are delicious and perfect. Aunt May thanks Peter, jokingly saying that he might fly away suddenly, but Peter retorts that he wouldn't. Then Jonah joins the joke, teasing Peter that he might just do it. Peter replies that he has already turned a new leaf, and Aunt May is pleased to hear that, and mentions that a friend of his that is already settling down. And a friend of theirs add that Peter's friend has settled down with a lovely girl and offered that they could find him a match with the bridesmaids. Peter was about to answer them when Aunt May joined them and proudly stated that Peter was a catch, handsome, and with a steady job. However, Jonah grudgingly tells the name Oscorp, and Peter seems troubled about why Jonah said it that way, saying things change. Jonah retorts back, still in doubt that Oscorp has changed for good. Meanwhile, Aunt May's attention goes to the front door. Upon opening, Aunt May was delighted to see Norman holding a can of cranberries at the door. Norman apologizes for being late and jokingly says he has been out in the jungle and just had to beat an old lady for it. Inside the home, Peter tries to cover for Norman in regard to his weird joke about the cranberries, saying that Norman was trying to lighten the mood. Aunt May takes Norman's offering and offers him a place on the table. After saying she'll transfer the contents to a bowl, Peter greets him, saying he's happy that Norman could attend dinner. However, none of them are happy to see Norman, as one of the guests named Robertson tells Norman that his family were good friends with the Stacy family. He then added that some moments are never forgotten or forgiven, but Norman mentions back that Robertson has mended ways with Tombstone, despite years of bad blood. He even allowed his son to marry his daughter. He then questioned him about second chances and his belief about whether it isn't possible. But then Anna Watson cut between the tension and said she was living proof of second chances, as she was previously suffering and dying from a rare disease, but she was saved by drugs developed from some magical mutant flower. Now she believes in anything, including second chances. Aunt May agrees with Anna enthusiastically. Aunt May then reaches for a bowl on the top of a cabinet to use as a container for the cranberries. Norman offers Aunt May to get it for her instead, but Jonah cuts him off, demanding him to talk with him privately, reminding him that they both share a secret. Jonah added that they both know why Norman is watching Peter Parker closely. Norman answered him with a stern face, acknowledging his comments about that. But Norman also reminds Jonah that he was different back then, referring to his time as Green Goblin, and tells him that his sins have been wiped clean. He is on the path of seeking amends for those sins he has done, not only with Peter Parker, but everyone he has wronged in his dark past. Jonah begrudgingly agrees, reminding Norman again that the only reason why he is still alive is that Peter took a bullet for him. Jonah then warns Norman that if he even hurts Peter and his family again, he sternly reminds him of who fired that shot. Aunt May was about to cut the two gentlemen off from their discussion when she accidentally slipped off the stool. At this moment, Peter's spider sense went off, calling for Aunt May. Peter immediately hurls a chair toward Aunt May in order to break her fall and save her comfortably. Due to the sudden event, Peter's spider sense goes off way too hard on Peter, overwhelming him again with sensations of danger from all people within the city. Peter's mind is on fire, unable to process all of the information and sensation coming to him immediately, and he excuses himself from the dinner, making a white lie about urgent matters at work that he needs to return to. Norman tries to cover him by saying that there is work that Peter needs to finish and follows after him. Robertson asks Peter about her Aunt May, but she herself told that it's okay and asks Peter instead if he is coming back. However, Peter has already left the area. Jonah assured Aunt May that he will deliver their message to Peter after seeing Norman out of the home. But Norman says no need and even assures him as they both catch up to Peter. However, Peter made a quick getaway by jumping out the window instead of using the stairs going upwards. Norman notices and heads for the rooftop while Jonah is still on his tail, commenting on how Peter is quick to escape, but retorts at Norman that he won't be going out easily. He then demanded Norman to speak up, asking about what he did to Peter this time around. Norman didn't answer immediately, but once he did answer, he stated that he did nothing and instead Peter did that to himself. Regardless, Jonah still blames Norman for helping Peter and says that he can read Norman like an open book, saying he's in too deep. He then warns him about making a news report about him, but Norman assures him that he will get Peter out of this mess, saying he isn't the villain Jonah thinks of him, while his high-tech suit morphs around him as he heads up the stairs. Upon opening the rooftop door, Norman is now fully suited and declares himself as the Gold Goblin, wherein Jonah taunts him back, saying that it doesn't sound stupid at all sarcastically. He even taunts his new name, saying it's just a little green. But before Gold Goblin could fly off, he was surprised when he noticed and saw Spider-Boy for the first time. Norman asks Bailey who he is, and the lad answers him by saying he is Spider-Boy and the best option for Peter Parker right now is ground support between them. And Bailey added that Norman should immediately head back to his lab and find a fix for Peter's current problem. But Norman retorts, asking why he should entrust Peter's safety to an unknown child. Annoyed by his remark, Bailey replied that he has been doing this stuff for years now and that he is Spider-Man's partner, to which Norman asks in disbelief. Left with no choice, Bailey proclaims that he is Spider-Man's sidekick and sets off to find Peter Parker. But before he disappears from Norman's vicinity, Bailey tells Norman to be a good former psychopath and get to work, as he will look for his pal with a screaming spider sense inside his head and might pop if left unattended. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is now heading back to the city, and upon his arrival, he senses a crane collapsing between 34th and 33rd Street. Luckily, no one was inside the crane, but it was a different story down on the streets, as a few civilians were under it. Peter quickly goes into action, shooting his webs at the civilians and pulling them away from danger. Although the civilians were saved, some are ungrateful to Spider-Man, such as a woman saying that he nearly pulled out her arm from the socket. But instead of returning to that complaining civilian, Spider-Man pulled out a prank on her, saying in Spanish that he is sorry. and Spider-Man doesn't speak in English as he darts away to his next destination. As Spider-Man passes by, he stops a stalker of an unaware woman who is on her phone, saying that the stalker has a restraining order on him. However, Peter sensed from far away that the said stalker wasn't abiding by his restraining order, so Spider-Man trapped him with his webs. As the woman realizes that Spider-Man saved her, she thanks him at first before noticing that the web-slinging hero is heading away somewhere else. Peter said he was heading down the subway as he was about to miss his train. On the subway tracks, a commotion occurred as an unknown assailant pushed a man in a business suit onto the tracks. The crowd asked for help as an oncoming subway train was approaching fast. In the nick of time, Spider-Man could jump in from above. Spider-Man saved the man from being run over by the subway train. Peter returned the saved civilian to the train platform, and the man appropriately thanked the hero. But instead of answering him back, Spider-Man tells him to thank him later, as he wonders why he still senses the man he just saved is still in danger. It made him even question why everyone is in danger now. Peter visibly cannot process all of the information his spider sense is giving him all at once. Suddenly, an explosion rocks the underground subway station from its other side. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured by that explosion. Spider-Man orders the people to look out for each other as he enters the hole from the explosion on the other side. Now on the other side of the subway station, Peter follows an inside path leading to the explosion source. Even though he hates the fact that he can sense other people getting hurt and in trouble miles away, he can sense more danger from the location he is approaching. And upon arriving, Peter saw a group of bank robbers coming out from the hole created by the explosion earlier, carrying a money bag in each hand. One of them shouted that their boss wanted everything to be loaded into their getaway truck, down to the last cent available. Peter is amazed to see a bank robbery going on right now, as it has been a while for the web crawler to face off against simple bank robbers. He can't believe it at first and wonders why his spider sense is sensing the robbers is in danger, while he comically realizes that it was because of him. Leaping into action after giving out a one-liner to the criminals, Peter excitedly engages the bad guys as he has been itching all day to hit something with his fist. However, once Spider-Man battles with the bank robbers, every hit he lands on the bad guys makes his spider sense go haywire, hurting his mind. His spider sense conflicts with his mind as the latter treats the robbers as victims while the former isn't. While fighting off the goons, Spider-Man tells them what he is doing will hurt him much more than them. Spider-Man hasn't yet beaten up all the robbers, and the two remaining goons complain against him as they haven't done anything to the web crawler while approaching him. Due to the overwhelming sensation of his out-of-control spider sense, Peter acted fast and immediately defeated the remaining goons. As he catches a break, Peter monologues internally that the pain he's currently feeling is like a year's worth of migraine, but he still counts his lucky stars as he thought he only had to deal with those bank robbers, not some big villains. But it seems Peter said too soon, as a powerful beam of electricity hit him square in the stomach. The powerful electric attack came from none other than Electro himself. He thanks Spider-Man for knocking out his goons, as he won't need to split up the loot they have stolen for him, and remarks that he will be the guy that will kill the web crawler for good. Spider-Man coughs and struggles on the ground, retorting back at Electro, "Is this the end of our friendly neighborhood superhero Spider-Man?" So that's a wrap on this episode. Spider-Man definitely cannot handle all the information his spider sense is sending him. He needs to downgrade the range of his spider sense to be much more effective. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when the next episode is uploaded. This is Carl and see you in the next one.